our program today, we have two special guests, Bob Woods, Executive Director of United Way, and Jen Conover, Vice President, Community Investments. Is that right? And I think you probably, most all of you know both of them. We're going to talk about a proposed plan to create what we would call the York County Funders Alliance. And this is an alliance modeled after funders groups across the country, and also where grant makers come together to be informed, to learn, to network in the effort to have more informed philanthropy. We had such a group in the mid-90s here in York, and it was very successful for about 5 years. It got lost over the way. It was a program of the Community Foundation, but with change of leadership, that program did not continue. And so last year, the past chairs, Sue Krebs and Judy Simpson, who's in Australia, that's why she's not here today, by the way, Randy and Lisa and I had a series of meetings and talked about what could we do, something special for the community on the occasion of our 10th anniversary. Chloe Eichelberger likes to call it an aha moment. What could be an aha moment? And so this was conceived by that group as an idea to explore. And it was really, I think, inspired by our successes and our failures and some disappointments over the past 10 years. We have had some disappointments. We have had more successes. But when you're doing venture capital and early funding and change-making philanthropy, we've learned a lot. We've learned to be informed philanthropists through educational programs. And we learned what questions we need to ask in study groups when we're looking at investing dollars. Is it a good idea supported by a sound plan? Is there leadership in place that can carry it off? What kind of impact will it really make in the community? How will it be sustained after our funding is over? And so when you think through the projects that have been very successful and those that have been less successful, the answers to these questions are very informing. Subsequently, we discussed this at our fall retreat, and it seemed to resonate with the group, and then we took it to the planning committee, and that was last fall. And since then, we've had what we call a little organizing group working together. The partners, the immediate partners, are the United Way, the Cultural Alliance, and the Community Foundation with the Women's Giving Circle. And then we've also invited to help organize the plan for this in Kinsley, representing the Kinsley Family Foundation and a member of the Women's Giving Circle, Larry Miller, representing a corporate grant maker from People's Bank, and David Meckley from Strategic Advantage. And David, interestingly enough, was an active part of the group when it existed in the 90s and is very enthusiastic about it, and so he was a natural to put in this group. So we've been working together. We've come up with a lot of information, which you have a handout here, and I'll go over that for a second at the end. But Bob and Jane are here to tell us about why they, as major funders in the community, they're interested in it and why we think this would be a great gift to the community. So I'll let Bob's going to start, right? Okay.
I'm not Bob.
I'm going to come down so you can go up there.
I know, I'll be walking through that window. First, I would just like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you about this today. And I am going to be talking about why does United Way think that this is such a great idea, and that's where I'm going to be coming from. I've been the executive director of United Way of York County now for, boy, it's been more than 20 years. I don't know where the time has gone. I have been in the United Way system now for more than 30 years, and it's really been just kind of a blink in time. As you might expect, throughout that time, I have seen a lot of changes, particularly in the area of fundraising. I saw the introduction of the computer, for that matter. We used it to run campaigns using a index card format and having little cases with those. But I've seen a lot of changes. But there have been some huge changes that have taken place over the past probably 5 years, no more than 10 years, a lot of which has been brought on by technology, and a lot of which has been brought on by the global market and the movement of companies here in York, away from York, companies that have folded in York, that were very good contributors, particularly on a corporate basis to the York community. The United Way's funding primarily comes from employees of the workplace. 75% of our dollars actually are raised through employees. Another 22% come from corporate contributions. And the vast majority of those corporate contributions are, particularly the large contributions, are made through corporate foundations. The unfortunate part of that is those corporate foundations are located elsewhere and doing some really good work in the communities in which they live. And let me give you an example of the kind of impact. You all remember York International. Had a big presence here in the York community, very much involved in the community. Gave a sizable contribution to the United Way in the form of a corporate gift. And that was much to the other places where the York International was located, they did not share in the kind of benefits that we received because of that corporate giving. They gave here in this community. They were always one of those companies that if we were falling short of our goal, we could go and talk to the folks over at York International and they'd give us a little bit more to put us over the goal mark. Well, they now have merged into Johnson Controls. Johnson Controls, a very good contributor to the United Way. The foundation actually matches the giving from the employees on a dollar per dollar basis. It's not as much as the corporate gift that we receive from York International. I can't tell you though what the Johnson Controls Foundation though does in Milwaukee. They give millions of dollars to the community in Milwaukee. We're doing all we can to try and get some of those dollars back into our community and working with people to make that happen. But millions of dollars in the community in which they live. Another company, we just had a merger with about a year ago now, Snyder's Lands over in Hanover. Conducted at one time it was the #1 employee campaign in the Hanover area. Well, now the way that they are to run their campaign, those shots are being called in, is it North Carolina, Charlotte? I get them mixed up. I'm from Michigan, so. They're being called from North Carolina. So they decided we're going to do an online campaign. So all the workers, if you want to give to the United Way, you have to go online to your computer. No more employee meetings, no more learning about what your United Way is doing in your community, etc. The result of that campaign, 1/10 of what they raised. Before they were part of the Hanover community and giving in that particular way. What else? What other kinds of things have been happening? We have the EITC program, which is a great program. It allows companies to fund various organizations that have been certified for EITC dollars here within the community, and that's fantastic. A lot of those companies, though, use that money as their corporate contribution, if you will. And I think that's one of the reasons why over probably the last 10 years, our corporate contributions are just going like this. Maybe a little bit going downwards. What have we done? We're now certified to receive EITC dollars. Sorry, those partner agencies that think we're going to be in competition. No, we're just one more choice that those organizations have. Another environmental issue that's been happening are banks. How many of you remember York Bank? Goes back a while, fantastic contributors back to this community. As is M&T Bank. Their corporate gift, though, is through their M&T Foundation, nowhere near what we were receiving back when it was York Bank. You know, the business that was created here, the family-owned businesses, etc., giving back to the community. The other thing that we have happening here, we do have industries moving in here to York, and it's really great to see. Unfortunately, though, at least at this point in time, they don't have any buy-in to our community, except the bottom line. You know, they need to be making a profit. That's where their concern is, and not at this point in time do they see the importance of getting back to community. The other thing that we find going on within the area of philanthropy is what corporate foundations and other foundations are now requiring of organizations. They are targeting their dollars. They all have their own special interests. PNC Bank, very good corporate contributor, had made a commitment of $100 million to early childhood development. They have increased that by another $350 million. That is a big deal to them. And they and all the communities in which they are located are really pushing that, not only in terms of giving, but their employees, etc. And the other thing with other banks as well, you know, we don't have many headquarters here in York County. I think we have 2 banks, namely York Traditions and People's Bank. The rest are outside and now have regional representatives. And the majority of the corporate giving, again, we are getting some, but we're not getting what we once were. The majority of that corporate giving is where those regional folks are either stationed or where the headquarters of that bank is located. That is happening throughout our community. We are definitely seeing a major shift going outside of the community. And we have to deal with that. And we have to respond in terms of what they are requesting from us. If they want to give to early childhood education, boy, we'll give them a proposal relative to early childhood education that impacts, you know, probably, I think we have maybe 8 or 9 of our organizations are involved in early childhood education. But that's what we'll be targeting. Others might be interested in a financial stability program. We'll target that. But that's the kind of corporate giving that we're having to deal with today, again, through corporate foundations. And as a United Way, we have to be responsive to that if, in fact, we're going to be able to raise those dollars. The other thing we find that within corporations, they're no longer asking for, you know, how many people are you serving. You know, that's not cutting it anymore. They're now asking for what sometimes can be an overused term, but they are asking for outcomes. What is the impact of our contribution here in the community? And you know, what I'm talking about, the best example I can give about outcomes is like you have a big brothers, big sisters match. And you know, it used to be, we used to fund, okay, how many matches did you increase this year over last year? No, that's not what we're looking at now. Now we're looking at what impact did you have on that child? Did the child's grades go up? Did they no longer, were they truant? Things of that nature. And those are the kinds of measurements that we need to be reporting on to those foundations. So what I look at in terms of, the other thing I did want to comment on, again, 30 years in the business. Never forget going through an allocation process, and you'd have pages and pages of budget material that agencies had to submit to us. You know, their line item budgeting, and they'd come in and appear before a panel, and then the panel would say, well, why do you have a 5% increase in printing? Those are the things that they'd be interested in. Not today. Today's allocation process, in terms of budget material, 1 page that actually includes 3 years of budget information. and a whole lot of space on that paper. It's all about outcomes. It's all, and if you're not able to measure those outcomes, you're not going to get funded. And that's all there is to it. That is the environment in which we're working today. That is what our corporate funders want, and therefore that is what we want as a United Way. And as a result of that, we have actually structured our entire allocation process around education, income, and health. We have established priorities, and we are now establishing community outcomes that our agencies, when they do submit a request, we look at, okay, how are you going to impact those outcomes that are community outcomes in that particular area? It's what United Way is doing. It's what a lot of foundations are doing. And quite frankly, it's what foundations should be doing. And this is one of the reasons why, I believe and want to get, back behind this whole concept of the Funders Alliance. We did it some 10 years ago, and it was a long time ago. The programs were well attended. People just soaked up the information. What's being done in another community? How are you measuring this? How are you measuring that? And even more importantly, the networking aspect that takes place when you have all these funders. Could you imagine if we had an issue here? I mean, United Way, we're raising around $7 million. You go down the street here to the Human Services Building, they got a budget of a little over $200 million. We have millions within the foundation. We have millions among the foundations here within the community. What would happen if we really got together and really started targeting some major issues here in our community? We could have a true impact on those issues. We could turn around the York public school system. I mean, if that could happen. But this is why United Way is involved in this, and why we would like to see it happen once again. We would like to bring in those corporate foundations that might have a headquarters outside the community. We need to have the local people that might work for those companies to be championing our efforts, be advocating for what we need to do here in York County. And I think this particular program that Carolyn has brought to you will help us do that. Will help us work together and make informed decisions for the York community. Well, that's it.
Thank you.
You want me to?
Well, I think we'll have questions at the end. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Because we'll
Yeah.
let Jane.
Here I am.
There she is.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Carolyn asked me to talk a little bit about what is the status of nonprofits in the community. You heard a little bit from Bob's perspective, and how has the foundation adapted our funding strategies to meet those needs. So as Bob illustrated, the funding environment for social services is challenging and somewhat unpredictable, depending on what businesses are in the community. Nonprofits are trying to adapt to this changing environment in new and creative ways. And as donors and funders, we also have to reinvent our giving strategies so our gifts are the most effective they can be at creating a vibrant York. One way the Community Foundation is helping nonprofits adapt is through our Nonprofit Strategic Alliance Grant Program. Alliances among nonprofits means they go beyond just collaboration. It means partnering in ways that can streamline costs, improve efficiency, and ultimately provide better services to the people that they help. With over 1,000 nonprofits in York County, there are ample opportunities for nonprofits to work together. Since 2009, the foundation has helped 22 organizations combine their efforts. Some of these combinations were mergers, so it resulted actually in 8 fewer independent nonprofits in York County through these collaborations. The services didn't go away. They got better and more sustainable because they focused their resources and less on administration. A benefit to the donors is that they are not approached by multiple organizations asking for support for the same type of work. Some of the examples of strategic alliances we have supported are the Access York Victim Assistance Center merging with the YWCA, the Boy Scouts in York County and the Boy Scouts of Dauphin County combined, and the York Chamber of Commerce combined with the York Economic Development Corporation. In some of these cases, the conversations about merger really started with some of the questions the foundation was asking when folks came to us for funding. We'd ask things that Carolyn mentioned earlier. Who else is providing these services? How could you work together? Another important question actually to ask is who will lead the project now and in the future? Because in York County, many nonprofit executives are in place, have been in place for many years, and they're now approaching retirement. Succession planning is something every nonprofit should be doing. Sometimes the retirement of a nonprofit leader can represent an opportunity to even have closer collaboration with another organization. In any case, donors need to know who will be in place to ensure that their gift is well managed. These are the kinds of questions that can make giving money away take more time, but the benefits go beyond that one organization. Strategic gifts make the community stronger. Now, the foundation is adapted to the changing world of charitable giving by focusing our resources on key community needs, like Bob had mentioned. We simply don't have enough money to solve every community problem. So we study the issues like the Women's Giving Circle, we talk to service providers and other funders to educate ourselves on the best approaches to addressing a problem. The foundation has 4 primary focus areas now: public education, downtown revitalization, nonprofit and municipal alliances, and issues of aging. By focusing, we can give larger grants that have high impact and have lasting value. It also means we spend more time with the applicants. So instead of asking for requests for proposals from anyone, we actually ask people to talk to us first, and then we set up meetings so we can better understand the project. We also have started focusing our advocacy with, coupling our advocacy with our grant making with our advocacy. The issues we are taking on are complex, and they're not necessarily addressed with funding alone. So in addition to making grants to support community improvement, we look for ways to add our voice to promote positive community change. Now, the Women's Giving Circle knows very well that strategic grant making has wider benefits to the community. The projects you support come from conversations you have about solving community problems. The Truancy Prevention Initiative and Moving Plans into Action are great examples. These initiatives seek to target resources over a period of time to address a problem. And they grew out of conversations, information exchange among community leaders and donors who observed a chronic problem, and then they educated themselves about the problem and joined together to achieve these results. But not all donors have time to devote to strategic grant making. Corporate executives are running busy businesses, and they often don't have the time to investigate every request they receive. So they do want to ensure a company's gifts are well spent, though. And that's where our Funders Alliance can help, because it provides a simple way to get up to speed on key community issues, so they're prepared when they evaluate requests when they come to the door. It creates a network of donors to exchange giving strategies and call each other up for input on a request. Now, nonprofits can benefit from this too, because if a nonprofit pitches a worthy project to one donor and that donor shares that information with other potential donors, it could lead to more financial support. A Funders Alliance also is a great way to engage the next generation of donors in discussions about giving. They too are learning how to evaluate requests for gifts. They want to better understand the charitable landscape and how to make informed decisions about their giving. The Funders Alliance is an opportunity for younger and more experienced donors to exchange ideas and learn from each other about what's most important for the future of the community. As Bob said, there's millions of dollars given away in York County every year. As donors, we have a real tremendous impact on improving the quality of life in our community. By creating a Funders Alliance, we can maximize that impact by educating ourselves, sharing strategies, and adapting to the trends that Bob has talked about. It can strengthen philanthropy today, but it also can help ensure its continuity into the future. So, we are engaged in the organizing committee, and we will be wanting to serve as fiscal agent and trying to really just engage funders in good giving in the community.
Great, thank you, Jane. Thank you. You have in front of you the orange sheet, I think, which is the updated concept paper on this initiative, and there's just a couple things I can tell you about it. We envision quarterly meetings. It's modeled after, as you can see if you go on the web, Baltimore area grant makers, the Delaware Valley grant makers, a group in Western Pennsylvania. But it's basically all kinds of funders coming together. Federated funders like the Community Foundation or the United Way, the Culture Alliance, corporate givers through corporate giving programs, individual private foundations, the whole conglomeration of it. And there are many, many throughout the county. We used to have about average attendance of about 40 at the meetings where we had. And we bring in people such as, remember bringing in the Pew Charitable Trust came to talk about how to be an informed grant maker, to evaluate proposals. What are you looking for? We brought in people like York Council and Brooks Center Future to tell what's happening in the community. We had a roundtable of corporate giving programs. It was a very, very interesting series of meetings that was very well attended, so that's what it's modeled after. And we would have quarterly meetings beginning in the fall. There would be an advisory group running it. The advisory group would have representatives of those major constituent groups. The Community Foundation would be the fiscal agent. The key to the success of the whole thing is really successfully launching it, and then a strong ongoing program. And the proposal that's under construction now, which should be finished in the next few weeks, would call for the Women's Giving Circle providing the first year and a half of funding for the program to launch it, and then next year through the first year. That we would do the funding for the program, and then the model that is sustained by the dues from the participating funders ongoing. But it needs strong support. It will have a fiscal agent, but it also is going to need a program consultant, much in the role that I play here at the Women's Giving Circle. And we're very excited that Lisa Levin, our own Lisa Levin, has expressed interest in doing this, and we're very interested in her doing this. So we are in those kind of, hopefully those things will come to fruition. The annual operating budget, it looks like at this point it would not exceed $25,000 a year. It's typically a lot of it's speakers, and you're bringing in that kind of resources. So we hope to present this maybe at our March 12th meeting, the final proposal for a vote. If not, it'll be at our May meeting, but I think we can get enough together for our March 12th meeting, with the understanding that then there would be time over the spring and summer to organize this thing, for staff support for the consultant to work to organize it. So that's it in a nutshell, and we have